Hey everybody, my name is Allie Nguyen and I go to Elkins High School, hence why I put a night down here. My GC mentorship project was about marketing strategies in the sports industry and whether or not they're effective towards a specific age demographic. So let's begin. In my introduction, essentially in the beginning, I'm just stating about how sports has been considered a form of escapism to many, but right now the average age demographic is shifting towards an older age, which, although it's not necessarily a bad thing, I'm not saying that it's bad that more older people are watching sports, but it's kind of indicating a shift away from a younger demographic, which would not be in the sports industry's best interest because this younger age demographic is projected to be the largest population in the future. My hypothesis in this project was that the marketing strategies towards a specific age demographic, which I chose between 17 to 24 years old, I felt that they wouldn't be effective and that it would probably be beneficial that they start marketing more on social media and start shifting towards digital platforms if they haven't done it already. So I decided to look to see if there was more projects and studies and concepts that were fairly similar to what I was trying to research, and I found this study from Zimbabwe in their collegiate sports federations. And essentially, in the beginning, they described the difference between sports marketing and mainstream marketing, so just regular marketing and businesses in general. And they point out multiple differences between the two and why it's very important to distinguish between sports marketing and mainstream. And in the end, they found that the marketing efforts towards the collegiate sports federations were not effective at all, and that they should be shifting towards more outreach programs and media presence to increase consumption because their efforts right now just were not effective at all. However, since my project was actually based in the United States and our professional sports leagues, I decided to look more into what I felt would be the reason why we haven't reached our full potential, which is the age demographics, a shift, kind of like I mentioned in the introduction. Um, as I did more research, I saw that the majority of the age demographics in all the sports leagues were towards the older end, and how in 2016 the average viewership age in all sports in the sports industry ranged between 40 to 64 years old. In contrast, I also researched into the fantasy sports league and online gaming for sports, and I found that their demographics are significantly younger than the average age viewership for TV. Actually, their demographics are between 18 to 34 years of age for about half of their total fantasy sports players and everyone, which is incredibly important and interesting because this kind of shows some potential in the future, and that the 18 to 34 age group, that's what's shifting away from watching sports right now. And that's who the industry should be marketing towards. And the fact that 50% of these fantasy sports players are in this age group, it shows potential that they would want to view, games and everything. However, since we're kind of moving towards a more digital age, they're more focused on what's convenient and right in front of them rather than cable TV. Also, a lot of sports are losing viewership, kind of like in the NFL's instance, where the people in the 20 to 29 age group are feeling that the NFL is becoming too political, which makes sense because as a sports psychologist, Jonathan Friedman said, he said it's been in a manner that most fans perceive to be adversarial. I'm sorry if I pronounced that wrong. And he thinks that it kind of drives a wedge between the players and a significant portion of their fan base. The fact that the NFL is towards the older age spectrum than a lot of other sports might be because of that, or it might be because parents are starting to shift their kids away from playing football as a youth because of the many dangers it possesses. Whereas, for instance, the MLS has the youngest age viewership of 40 years old, and many kids play soccer as a youth. So it would make sense that since they played soccer as a kid, they will watch it in the future. Whereas, since less kids are playing football in their childhood, they would probably be less inclined to watch it on TV as they get older. This kind of correlates with the NBA Chief Marketing Officer Pam L's idea because, as she says that players are pop star icons and have strong appeal to young people. And that's true in some instances. For instance, again, in the soccer example, Neymar and Messi, they are considered icons in the sports industry, and kids are looking up to them as idols and encouraging them to watch more games, ultimately causing the average age viewership to be lower. Um, Again, another noticeable trend is that people are tending to watch the games that they played as a youth, which I kind of just repeated myself, but that is okay. My methodology in this project was to survey a group of 100. In response, I got 98 responses, which is fine. It was the majority of them. But I chose to target people in the age demographic between 17 years old and 24 years old because they're kind of an age where it's college, I guess I could say, and they're probably not going to have cable TV. So what would be the best way to market towards them to watch sports because it is such a large age demographic, the 17 to 24-year olds. And they're projected to take over the majority of the population in the future. I also thought that it would be effective in marketing towards them because right now would probably be the ideal age since right now if they establish a favorite sports team, they're probably going to be more likely to be consistent consumers in the future and ultimately bring more revenue to the sports industry. In the survey, I asked multiple questions. I asked questions such as, did they consider themselves sports fans? Did they play sports as a youth? And how they primarily watch their sports, etc. And I felt like these questions would kind of give me an idea of what they thought of the sports industry and ultimately how effective it was on this almost group of 100 people. So in this page, it just shows results from two of my questions. The one on the left being, do you consider yourself to be a sports fan? The one on the right being, did you play sports anytime during your childhood? And the fact that those two questions kind of resulted in similar responses in the yes part, it kind of showed that there could possibly be a correlation between the two of playing sports as a youth and becoming sports fans, kind of what the NBA Chief Marketing Officer suggested. Additionally, there was a median score of 2 when answering the question, how effective would you say marketing efforts towards your age demographic is on a scale of 1 to 5. The lowest score very clearly shows that marketing efforts towards 17 to 24-year-olds is not effective. Also, the median score for the question, how likely are you to change your sports team in the future, was 3, which isn't too high, it's not too low, it's exactly in the middle, which shows kind of a potential that if sports programs are able to successfully market towards them, they might establish a fan base or towards a program that they're most intrigued to. In this slide, it's just additional data from my other questions. In the first paragraph, I describe how most people responded that social media was probably the most effective marketing effort towards this demographic, which wouldn't be a surprise as many people in this age group tend to get their entertainment from social media. In the second paragraph, I asked them about how they watch their sports, and about a third of them replied that they watch it on a streaming service, which is interesting. Even though it's not half or the majority, it's showing kind of an increase of people moving towards cable TV, towards digital platforms, streaming services. In conclusion, my data and results kind of, or not kind of, but they proved my hypothesis correct. These marketing strategies are just not effective in 17 to 24-year olds, as you saw in the median score of 2. Even though a lot of the participants said that they were sports fans, that doesn't necessarily mean much, solely because it was a very close percentage to the group that said they played sports. And in my opinion, I felt that the sports industry cannot solely base their marketing efforts, I guess, towards people who just played the sport in their childhood. They need to kind of be more forceful and aggressive in marketing on social media to ultimately get the best results and get the most revenue that they can get. Also, I think that it would be good to move towards more digital streaming services because it'd be more convenient, especially in this day and age when people can either watch it at home or even on the go. Uh, ESPN actually has been showing a good kind of pattern in a sense because they took a good step by establishing ESPN Plus, which is their digital streaming service. And similar to how I mentioned earlier that the PGA Tour Live had a 20-year age difference between their average age viewership for TV, ESPN Plus is likely going to show a lower age viewership too. I feel like this research initiative that I completed could kind of begin to start more marketing research into marketing towards this younger age demographic because there's just so much potential here. Um, I'm excited to see if everyone, or in the sports industry, everyone is able to find a way to market towards 17 to 24-year-olds or around this age group successfully. The sports industry could see a large increase in revenue in the future and ultimately change the game forever. This last page is just my citations, and this was just about my previous research and part of my conclusions. And that's a wrap. Thank y'all so much for listening to me talk about sports marketing strategies. And I hope y'all enjoyed and thank y'all so much. Have a good rest of y'all's day.